If you're trying to build a SaaS tool in 2026 and your bookmarks folder has 50 AI tools in it, you're already losing. When I moved to Silicon Valley, I thought the best founders would have some secret stack, some magical combination of tools nobody knew about, maybe a custom framework, maybe some crazy AI workflow. But after spending time around startup founders building at ridiculous speeds, I realized something. The best founders weren't using more tools. They were using fewer. And if you told me I had to start over tomorrow with 0 users, 0 funding, and 0 connections, these are the only 5 tools I'd use. Now, before I get into them, a bit of context. I'm a software engineer from a small town in Canada. Over the last few years, I've had the chance to work on software used by millions of Canadians every single day. Then I packed my bags, moved to Silicon Valley, and worked at a Y Combinator startup that was considered one of the strongest ones in its batch. And after watching founders go from idea to revenue faster than I thought was possible, I started noticing patterns, not just in what they built, but in how they built. Because the founders winning today are not winning because they're smarter, they're winning because they move faster. And these are the tools that help them do exactly that. Tool 1, Claude Code. The first tool is Claude Code, and honestly, this one isn't even close. A few years ago, if you wanted to build some serious SaaS project, you needed a team, front-end developers, back-end developers, infrastructure engineers, QA engineers. But today, one person can do unbelievable amounts of work. Claude Code isn't valuable because it writes code. Lots of tools write code. Claude Code is valuable because it removes bottlenecks. It turns hours into minutes, days into hours. Instead of spending entire days typing implementation details, you're making product decisions. You're thinking about customers. You're acting more like the architect than the builder. That's one of the biggest mindset shifts I saw in Silicon Valley. The best founders aren't trying to type faster. They're trying to think better. And Claude lets you do that. Tool number 2, Supabase. The second tool is Supabase because most founders waste too much time building infrastructure, databases, authentication, storage, permission, and configuration. Nobody cares about any of that. Nobody signs up because your database architecture is beautiful. Nobody tells their friends because your authentication flow is elegant. Customers care about one thing. Does your product solve their problem? That's it. Supabase gives you a database, authentication, storage, APIs, and real-time functionality right out of the box, which means instead of spending 3 weeks configuring infrastructure, you can spend 3 weeks talking to customers. One of those activities generates revenue, the other just feels productive. Tool number 3, Stripe. The third tool is Stripe, and Stripe might seem like the most boring tool on this list, which is exactly why it's important. Every founder wants to talk about AI. Nobody wants to talk about payments. But revenue is the only metric that matters. You can have 10,000 users and 100,000 users, even a million users. If nobody pays, you don't have a business. You have a hobby. Stripe solves one of the hardest problems in software, getting money from customers, subscribers, usage billing, invoices, taxes, internal payments, all of it. The best startups don't reinvent payment. They integrate Stripe and move on. Because every hour spent building a payment system is an hour not spent on improving the product. Tool number 4, this is a cool one, PostHog. The fourth tool is PostHog, and this is probably the most underrated tool on the list because founders love building, but most founders hate measuring. Here's what usually happens. A founder builds a feature. They think it's amazing. They spend 2 weeks polishing it, then nobody uses it. PostHog tells you what's actually happening, not what you think is happening. You can see where users click, where they leave, where they get confused, which features matter, and which features nobody cares about. One of the fastest ways to kill a startup is building based on assumption. Data fixes that. Founders I met in Silicon Valley were obsessed with reality, and reality lives inside analytics. Not opinions, not feelings, not guesses, analytics. Tool number 5, Vercel. The fifth and final tool is Vercel, and the reason I love Vercel is simple. Deployment should be boring. Seriously, if your deployment process feels exciting, something is probably wrong. Push your code, deploy it, and move on. The best founders protect their attention because attention is one of the most valuable resources in a startup. Every hour spent debugging infrastructure is an hour you're not talking to users. Every hour spent fighting deployment issues is an hour you're not improving the product. Vercel removes friction, and friction is the enemy of momentum. Now here's the funny thing. This video isn't actually about tools, not really, because I've met founders with perfect technology, perfect infrastructure, perfect architectures, but no customers. I've also met founders with messy code bases making millions of dollars. The difference wasn't technology. The difference was not speed. The difference was not technology. The difference was speed. Who talked to customers first? Who shipped first? Who learned first? Who adapted first? That's usually the winner. Not the smartest engineer, not the best programmer, not the person with the coolest tech stack, the person who learns fastest. When I moved to Silicon Valley, I expected to find people obsessed with technology. Instead, I found people obsessed with momentum. Everything was about shortening the distance between idea and customer feedback. Build, ship, learn, repeat, over and over. That's the real secret, not the tools. The tools just help you move faster. If I woke up tomorrow and had to build another SaaS business from scratch, I'd use Claude Code, Supabase, Stripe, PostHog, and Vercel. 5 tools, 1 goal. Get the idea from the customer, get from idea to customer feedback as quickly as possible. Because in 2026, building software isn't the hard part anymore. Finding something people desperately want is. And the founders who understand that are going to build the next generation of massive companies while everyone else is still arguing about their tech stack.